Alright, hi everybody, how's it going? It's Morg, and we're gonna be discussing other warband skills today for Mordheim Paramod. And we're gonna start with mercenary skills. First of all, let's start with combat expertise. I believe it's called combat expertise. Basically, what it does, it gives you 5% melee resistance and 5% armor if you're engaged by 2 or more enemies. And the mastery gives you the same thing, but gives you 10% melee resistance and 10% armor instead. So like the basic version, I think you're not really gonna be like using this on henchmen or anything. I can maybe like see this like investing into this skill because you happen to have like 2 skill points left over on your what do you call it? On your ogre. That skill also has like the issue that it's decided by the enemy when it like starts triggering or something like that. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, you either like go. I think this is just basically like an ogre skill, if anything. You cannot really use this on a champion because champion has the issue that he cannot really afford, generally speaking, can't really afford going into intelligence, and this skill costs like 6 and 9 intelligence. Yeah, so it's kind of awkward in that sense. Because you want to use your mentals on like some of the mentals on your alertness and your leadership mostly. Alertness because you want to get the flawless positioning, obviously. But we'll get to that. So I'm gonna put this one just bad. And I think like the only way to use the basic version, you don't use this on like henchmen or anything. You just use it on an ogre if you have leftover 2 leftover skill points. As for the mastery, I think this is again like a skill for the ogre. I think it's also usable on somebody like, what do you call it? Captain. But Captain already like struggles with his passive skill slots, so I don't know if this is something you would actually want. Yeah, technically speaking, you could also make like a heavy armor champion unit, which would like ditch leadership entirely. And in that case, you would be relying on, what do you call it? You would be relying on Rallying Cry to give immunity for all alone tests to the champion. So it's usable. It's usable. I think the best use is probably just gonna be that ogre, frankly speaking. So I feel like the skill is just kind of okay. What this skill is just truly held back by is just the requirements. The fact that it's like 6 intelligence and 9 intelligence, it makes it only viable on the captain and the ogre, right? If there was maybe some kind of like a different thing, maybe then. Hey Para, how's it going? Let's talk about now flawless positioning. So flawless positioning is like the number one reason why you're actually playing mercenaries. The basic version basically gives you plus 15% crit resistance, and the master gives you plus 45% crit resistance. So the thing is, in order to get the skill, you need to invest into like 6 alertness, and for this one you need 9 alertness. I mean, I think this skill is easily god tier. And let me tell you why. I mean, this is literally the first skill you pick on every single melee mercenary unit. And like the way you distribute your points is you just put like your first 3 points, your 3 mental points into that alertness so that you can get the skill. And it is in the God tier category because it's better than resilient, and it's also better than a luck rune, which both give like 10%, right? And the thing is, it's also like incredibly cheap to get, especially if, like in this, as an example, we're playing like a progression tournament, and it was incredible there because like if you can make it so that your units do not get crit, they are less likely to get injuries, and we kind of want to avoid your units getting injured and or like getting stunned in the middle of a combat. It just very strongly boosts their survivability and all that. Yeah, and also like you don't have to like rely on luck. That because like what I mean is that you might get lucky and get a luck enchantment to get rid of your crit resistance problems on your melee units, but with flawless positioning you don't have that issue. And yeah, like just comparing it to the resilient, getting resilient on every single unit on your team is difficult. With flawless positioning, it's really easy because it's really cheap. So that's like the biggest strength of the skill. As for the mastery, it gives plus 45% crit resistance. Well, it is arguably kind of an overkill, but at the same time, it kind of also isn't. If you have like an 85% armor guy or like 95% armor guy, crit resistance becomes an important stat because crits pierce armor, right? Um, so I don't think it's exactly a horrible idea to get that 45% crit resistance. Even like some builds in Paramod are able to reach how much? Like 90% crit chance, and that's a little bit rough. But that's also kind of like an overkill of a min-maxing. Um, I'm gonna also like put this into the not bad. This also like because there exists in like Mordheim Paramod, this what do you call it? These like 90% crit builds or something like that. Like I can see even like using flawless positioning just in case on your ogre. I think that's also like a thing that you can do. But let's get to the hunter. And hunter, there's like a 40% chance whenever you use shoot or aim, you get back 2 SP. And the mastery gives it's like an 80% chance, and it gives again 2 SP, right? So the basic version. Okay, first I'm just going to admit I've actually never had a chance to use Hunter properly. But I used it in like my theoretical builds a lot. As for the basic version, I really hated it because it's only 40%, but then again, you are kind of shooting a lot, and there are like some passive skills that like you're not exactly sure what to put sometimes on your archers in the passive slots. And I did have it like once in one match on one of my archers, and I was like, I got like surprised whenever it like procced. But I don't think without this and without like the influence of other people, I probably like put this into bed. I don't really like the design of it. I mean, the 40% is kind of relevant. It's the 40% is not irrelevant, unlike in what do you call it, the chaotic advantage, where the 40% is incredibly frustrating. I think if anything, I think what a more interesting design for this hunter would be if it was also like 80% chance, but it gave you like 1 SP only back. I think that would make the skill more appealing to me. I'm probably gonna put this into... I cannot put this into good, or like I cannot put this into good because it's so RNG dependent if it triggers or not. I'm gonna put this into okay. But I admit that I haven't really used the skill all that much. So there might be like more to it. And I would have to do like some more proper testing if I like this on a henchman. On the other hand, Hunter Mastery. I'm pretty sure this skill, I haven't used this skill either, but I'm pretty sure the skill is like completely insane. I kind of want to put this into God tier category. You often have like situations where you like start shooting and then you run out of SP and you cannot reload anymore. Like, this skill fixes that. It also like makes interactions possible where you just, after shooting your last shot, you still have a chance to go back into a cover to hide. I would use this. This skill also could be used for, what do you call it? Musket. I think it's called musket. No. Blunderbuss. Blunderbuss. I think that's kind of like an interesting thing because of how like blunderbuss actually works. I'm pretty sure you could actually just aim into the air, like not hitting anybody, to trigger Hunter. And that to me sounds like very funny thing to do, like a kind of an interesting interaction. So while I think that in theory Hunter Mastery is God tier, because I haven't actually like played with it properly, I'm just gonna put this into insane category, like that. Okay, but let's go over guard stance. So guard stance basically gives you, it's a stance, so it ends your turn, and for 2 SP it gives you 5% armor, and the master gives you plus 10% armor. So the way you can view the basic version is that if you are going for the guard stance, you're just going for the mastery, let's be real. I don't think there's like any warrior skill, or like, sorry, any warrior build which would be like so armor heavy that you would also like want to add like 5% more armor. Like, I think you're just better off going with something like a safe stance at that point, if you're going so armor heavy for some reason. Or just go for Web of Steel, right? Web of Steel will also give you some combat power, so you can actually fight back and do something a little bit more with your henchmen than just stand there. So this is just bad. Yeah. It's just like a stepping stone to get this skill. You can, but as for the mastery, yeah, you can also stack it with the combat expertise. Okay, so here's like the thing about guard stance, like which characters do even realistically go for guard stance? And I think it's just the wolf priest, and I think it's just the ogre who can go for this. I don't think there is anybody else who would be interested. You could technically also make like a champion build, heavy with heavy armor, but I think that's also a waste. I don't think it's worth it. I think you're just better off going with champion because champion's passive in Paramod gives him basically infinite parry, infinite parry chance the more he gets hit. So he kind of does end up with infinite parry chance. So you're just kind of better off going for Web of Steel there. And what about Captain? Well, Captain also just kind of prefers the Web of Steel. And what about the Warriors? Well, Warrior LGT. I mean, I suppose you could go for it, but I guess I wouldn't. Definitely wouldn't. So I'm gonna put this one. The best thing about Guardston is that okay, so like the Wolf Priest, let's talk about like the good stuff, right? Wolf Priest can go for it, and who else can go for it is also the what's his name? The Ogre, right? So with Ogre, you can achieve how much? Let's say you have like combat expertise as well. And let's say you also have that toughness skill, which gives you 10% additional armor. With guard stance, in those cases, you are able to get something like 80% armor on an ogre. If you use the potion, the armor potion, you're gonna have a 90% armor ogre. That's a big deal. You could also use like that, what do you call it? That warrior priest in your mercenary warband, but you kind of lose my respect, but I understand why you did that. So yeah, I can see this being good, but then again, like you're still gonna be like vulnerable to magic. You're still going to be vulnerable to crits. With Wolf Priest, you can get to like 75% armor. That's kind of a huge deal as well. So I think this is just. I wouldn't say it's exactly good, but it's definitely not bad. Okay, sniper shot. Alright, so let's talk about sniper shot. Basically, in the Paramod, the basic version gives you, it's like a special shot, kind of like the headshot, so it costs a lot of offensive points, it costs 4 offensive points, and it gives you plus 15% hit chance, plus 15% crit chance, and plus 30% crit damage. The master version gives you plus 30% hit chance, plus 30% crit, and plus 30% crit damage. Okay, let's talk about like heroes and stuff, right? Your LGT marksman is always gonna go for the mastery. He's not gonna be using 1 point to get this skill. So for like heroes, this skill is just like a stepping stone for them to get to the mastery. So let's talk a little bit about like sniper shot on henchmen. And as with any crit builds on henchmen just cannot they cannot stack crit as efficiently as heroes, right? They don't get like mastery skills which improve their crits and stuff. So for them, like going for crit is kind of bad. However, I can see maybe some henchman builds which would be like complementary to heroes. something like, what do you call it? Like imagine that you have like a crit smuggler, right? And you like crit somebody from 40, from like 40, right? What do you, from 40, from 40 meters. You crit somebody from 40 meters, they get stunned. If they get stunned, you have plus 20% additional crit chance. And then your like henchman can come in and use that sniper shots to maybe finish at a maybe finish and kill the guy with a crit. Maybe. And that's like the biggest issue. It's the maybe, right? Because if you do not manage to crit, your damage is just kind of pitiful. I mean, it's like exhilarating if your henchman crits for 1 million damage. It's amazing. But it's so inconsistent. So I cannot not put this into bed. I cannot not put this into bed. I cannot not put this into bed. As for the mastery, I actually think mastery is good because, as I was saying, you can make like more consistent crits with your heroes, right? And like 30% additional crit chance is a huge deal. And the plus 60% crit damage is also like a huge deal, right? You can also create like, what do you call her? Yeah, Smuggler. Crit damage Smuggler. I mean, it's a thing. I think it's like one of Hada's favorite builds to do. I think that build is actually kind of good. But it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky. The marksman arguably does it better, but where I think like the sniper shot really shines is in like situations. Okay, like about crit and like crit archers and like crit LGT marksman. I think you either go on like crit LGT marksman either for the hunter and you just focus on like the basic shots and stuff, or you go the sniper shot round. And in that case, you do not grab hunter. And in those cases, like sniper shot can be nice because sometimes you might be able to get into a position where you run out of SP and you cannot do like enough attacks. In that case, you can do like sniper shot for 4, right? For 4 OP, then you can reload and then you can sniper shot again. Right? So I think that kind of makes sense to me. Overall, I would either put this on the top of not bad or on top of good. Sorry, on top of not bad or bottom of good. So I think I'm just gonna put this at like the bottom of good, to be honest. Okay, let's talk about Tactician. So I'm just going to read the description because it's a little bit complicated. I have no idea what the skill did in vanilla. I just always ignored it, to be honest. But yeah, let's read it out. So, the basic version reduces the cost of ambush, overwatch, prowl, onslaught, entrench, and disengage by 1 offense point, and it reduces the cost of safe stance and death stance by 1 strategy point. Can only be used while not engaged, and it's not stackable, and it lasts for 2 turns. Now the mastery. The mastery reduces the cost of ambush, overwatch, prowl, onslaught, entrench, disengage, safe stance, and death stance. Safe stance and death stance is reduced by 1 OP and 1 SP instead. Okay, sorry. Range increased to 30 meters, duration increased to 3 turns. Yeah, so both of these skills are actually like pretty good. They have like a lot of potential to do some nasty stuff. especially if you take, for example, like a crit marksman, right? I can see with a crit marksman, with a hunter, but you could do some kind of a thing where you would be a sharpshooter, where you would be able to do like 7 attacks per round, which is kind of crazy with introspection and hunter. And in that case, you will be able to stack sharpshooter a lot. And the non-master version, because it's just 15 meters range, so it's a lot more awkward. I really think that you kind of want to use both of them at the same time. I don't think it's worth going for if you're not gonna stack tactician, I don't think it's worth it. It also like the stacked tactician makes your disengage for free, and that can be a huge deal in some situations. Also, like if you take into consideration something like onslaught or prowl, and that free disengage, right? You could like make some builds which are able to make use of which are able to do their attacks, then disengage for free, and then set up a prowl somewhere as an example, or set up an onslaught somewhere. You know, you fight, you disengage for free, and you set up like an ambush to protect your units or something like that. You can do that, you know. So there's like a lot of creative uses for the skill. The issue is just setting it up, and it's sometimes it may be just a little bit too awkward to set it up properly. So I'm gonna put, I think both of these have like the potential for like some insane combos, but the setup may be awkward. I think I'm gonna put this one to insane and this one to do really good, because this one is just harder to set up and this one is like easier to set up. But you have to like, in this case, like you're taking both of these skills and you're trying to make some broken combos. So I think it's like somewhere here. If you do manage to pull off your dirty combos, it's probably gonna be in God tier. If you don't, it's gonna be like okay, I guess. Yeah. So let's move on to the sister skills. Alright, let's start with the passive skills for the sisters. So Absolute Faith, it basically gives you plus 15% chance to your route tests, to the terror and fear resistances, and to all alone resistances. In tests. And the master gives you plus 30% instead, for some reason. But also the plus 30% to route us. Okay, but let's talk about the basic one. Basically, the skill just competes with Nerves of Steel. I think Nerves of Steel are better overall because Nerves of Steel allow you to get to 100% terror resistance. This skill can also allow you to get to 101% terror resistance, but you just need to like invest some extra points into your leadership, like 2 additional points, right? And in that case, it also allows you to get that 110% chance all alone resistances. Or also, what do you call it? Yeah, alternatively, you end up with 105% all alone resistance and all alone tests, and 95% all alone tests for fear and terror. Um, but just comparing it to the Nerves of Steel, like the most important thing for like your melee resistance tanks for your dodger is to consistently pass terror tests. If you lose that 5%, it could kind of like spell doom for your character sometimes, where the character just dies, and it's a bit unfortunate. So do you kind of want to like play with that, with those odds? I guess not. The other thing is you can also think about, what do you call it? Yeah, another thing, if you compare this to that Nerves of Steel, like the Nerves of Steel characters, they only have 90% all alone resistances, but that is actually fine, even if you like fail your all alone, because you have like a melee resistance tag. So like your opponent does not want to put more units on your all alone on your on your Serenity tank, you know, that's passing all of the terror. Like your opponent doesn't want to do that. So if the opponent does it and like puts a unit on your 90% all alone test unit, you're kind of winning, because yeah, like the enemy is basically risking that you're gonna also trigger the all alone, and you're gonna double stack Serenity if you pass. So it's just illogical for the opponent to go on your Serenity unit. With that said, there is also like the route check, but I think it's more relevant for the mastery, if anything, because you can achieve like 95% 95% route check, but again, you're kind of just playing. There is a possibility that you might just get routed anyway because of a 5%. And we all know how often it can happen that you are missing a 95% chance attack. It happens like a lot. It happens a lot. So I don't think you kind of want to play that kind of a game. If anything. With that said, I don't think it's like a bad skill. I just think it's a little bit like outclassed. I don't think you can go wrong with it. It's almost like preferential, but I think Nerves of Steel just wins every time. As for this skill, it's basically like the way you can consider the skill. It's just like a combination. It's a combination of cool-headed. It's a combination of what do you call it? The Fear and Terror one, like Nerves of Steel, and it's also a combination of Commander. I think it's called Commander. It basically gives you plus 30% route test check. So as long as you have like 18 leadership, that's gonna give you 18 leadership gives you 72% route chance, route test chance, and plus 30% gives you 102%. But with that said, like, yeah, I can maybe like see this like being used on a leader, but the thing is that I don't think sisters really have issues with their morale. I think they have like one of the highest morals. They are one of the highest morale warbands in the entire game. So you're not like, I don't really see like sisters needing to pass like the route check all that much, right? I think like, yeah, sisters have like really great mental, so I don't think is exactly necessary to make that kind of heroes. And like those sisters, those henchmen, all the sisters, they do need the leadership because they need to pass their all alones, they need to pass their fears, they need to pass their terrors. So if you're not investing into leadership with your sisters, man, what are you doing? I guess is the question. So I'm gonna just put this into like okay, to be honest. Okay. Divine Aegis, I believe this one is called. It basically gives plus 20% range resistance for 6 intelligence, and this one gives, sorry, for 9 intelligence it gives plus 40% range resistance. So the basic version is actually amazing. It's really, really good. It just kind of makes sense with what sisters are trying to do. It also stacks with what do you call it? Like divine something, divine buff. The buff that gives you like additional melee resistance and what do you call it? And range resistance. It also like stacks with Sign of Sigmar, right? Amazing. Yeah, it's like an all around like very, very good skill. Like not to mention, I talked about like how amazing support archers are, and if you have this skill can really mess up like support archers, especially if you have it like on every single unit. Yeah, it can be like a really really tough time for your archers. So I'm gonna put this one. I kind of do want to like put this almost into the god tier. I almost want to put this into god tier. But I think I'm just gonna put this into insane. I think it's insane for what it does. For 5% more than concealment, you go into god tier, or is it because you can stack them? I think it's because you invest into intelligence, and like investing into intelligence makes more sense. You know? Because intelligence gives you range resistance. So it's more logical, I think. You don't have to like put your points into alertness. You can just go into intelligence. I'm pretty sure this is actually insane. I think it's also like because some of the sister characters, they like being like very very dodgy, and they like the melee resistance slash dodgy like novice for example, but they are still like vulnerable to ranged attacks. So yeah, actually, yeah, it helps your like dodgers and stuff, like your cloth armor sisters. All right. As for the mastery, the mastery gives you plus 40% range resistance. So the funny thing is, the skill is also on like what do you call it? Not the warrior priest, but the wolf priest. It's kind of like an interesting thing. I've never actually used it. Could be a legitimate thing. I never actually bothered to try. I think the skill is like I don't think you go for the skill on somebody like the Maiden of Sigmar because you already have like the passive and you already have the spells. I think the 40% is kind of an overkill. Really, I think it's a little bit too much. So I think you like if you're going for that range resistance, I think like the basic is probably gonna be enough. If you want to be immune from shots, then I understand why you're going for this. But then again, you have also those spells which are gonna be able to stack with this, and you can spread them around your warband. So I think that should be you should be just fine with those spells. Uh, I mean, it's a big deal, like 40%. And it's intelligence, so it stacks even better. I'll put this into not bad, because I think I put like the flawless positioning here. I'm gonna put this into not bad, but you're probably looking to spend those points somewhere else. Let's talk about like the protection of Sigmar, right? So protection of Sigmar gives you plus 20%, what do you call it, magic resistance, and the requirement is 6 intelligence, and the master gives you plus 9 intelligence. Gives you 40% magic resistance. So I think both of these skills are like really good. This one, yeah, I think it's usable on your henchwoman. You can definitely use it. You can also stack it with your amulet, and you're gonna have like a lot of magic resistance to work with. It's basically better resist magic. Well, it kind of like depends how you want to build your warband, right? You can either like have your units have magic resistance, or you can decide to just invest into that spell which silences people for 3 rounds. Sinful speech. Or you can just counter like magic with sinful speech. Now, like sinful speech is not like 100% foolproof because there's the, what do you call it, the Doomweaver, right, with his super awesome totem thing, which just removes all magic debuffs. So, you know, in PvP, you're probably not gonna pull it off. But still, like sinful speech, if you actually do manage to get it working, it's like an incredible skill. Yeah. So, resist magic. I think this one also kind of goes into the insane tier, and I think the mastery also kind of goes into insane because it's like so much magic resistance. It's like 40%. Like every single magic resistance matters. You're gonna be like incredibly consistent at not taking damage from spells and stuff. Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, let's get to the Righteous Fury. And basically, like in my opinion, Righteous Fury is like the sister's equivalent of a crippling shot, you know. And I rated crippling shot like incredibly highly. It's not quite crippling shot because you have to go melee, and the attack of it, like it doesn't cost like 3 OP, it costs 2 OP and 1 SP. And basically it reduces enemies SP and OP the maximums by 1 for 2 rounds. Add the cost that you get like minus 5% hit chance. And the mastery is 2 OP and 2 SP at the cost of for 3 rounds, but at the cost of minus 25% hit chance. So let's start with the basic one. Is this god tier or is this insane? Like I don't see a reason why you would not take this on every single henchman on your warband. Yeah, you should probably take this on every single henchman in your warband. Like novices also like it because whenever you miss, You get additional dodge chance, so that's cool. And yeah, like the AI loves dual wielding. They love using two-handed weapons. If you manage to reduce their OP by one, they can only do like 2 attacks. They cannot do 3 attacks anymore. So that's a huge decrease in their DPS. Yeah. As for the mastery, I think it's still kind of like, I'm gonna put this into insane. Because this, unlike, what do you call it, overpower, you get like 1 million more chances to try to apply it. And unlike overpower, it doesn't last just 1 round. It lasts for 3 rounds, which in Paramod's terms, 3 rounds is basically forever. Yeah, you just need to hit this like 3 times. You can also like stack it with the basic version, right? You can also use a mace to apply it. Also, sisters. They have like those Sigmarite Warhammers, which are crit base, like basically sisters like to occasionally crit sometimes, and when they occasionally crit, they may sometimes like also stun the target, right? And if you do manage to stun the target, then yeah, it's for free. You're gonna get like an automatic hit on a stun target. Also, yeah, you just need to hit this once, and you're gonna have like plenty more chances than overpower, because overpower costs 4 OP. This costs like 2 OP. Like, why not just try to hit? And when you hit it, you can stop using it. You can just start using your basic attacks. Yeah, so I think it's insane. So Prayer of Swiftness increases your dodge chance by 15% for 2 rounds, and it costs 2 SP. And Mastery, it increases dodge chance by 30% for 3 turns. I think the basic version, I think it's just kind of bad, to be honest. I think it's just kind of awkward with trying to get this going. Because like in theory, like let's say you have some kind of a dodge character, such as Novice or something like that, and this character doesn't have enough dodge chance, right? So what you can do is, before you go into the combat, you just use like the Prayer of Swiftness, you set it up, and then you go into the combat. But very often you don't find like the spaces. You very often don't find like places to actually use the skill. So very often you just end up using the skill when you are actually in the combat. But like in that case, do you even want to go into combat with like missing minus 15% dodge? I don't really think so. I think this skill just kind of ends up being like a trap for your characters. I think maybe if it was like cheaper SP, maybe if it had like 1 SP, it would be fine. But I think like 2 SP is a little bit too awkward. So I'm gonna put this into... I'm gonna put this into bad. I think this is just kind of a bad skill. Sword Mastery. The Mastery gives you plus 30% dodge chance for 3 rounds. Basically, it doesn't have as big of an issue as the basic, because it lasts for 3 rounds. But I just don't think like 30% dodge is enough for sisters. I'm not sure what kind of like character would even want to use this. Like maybe like your ogre, maybe. I I think the skill would be more appealing if it gave you 45% dodge, actually. In that case, you could like start thinking about some maybe dodge maiden builds, which would kind of like fight the minus heavy armor penalty. Or like you could make some dodge heavy armor builds with the mastery. But I think plus 30% dodge is just not enough. Let's move on to Sign of Sigmar, and I actually like the skill. I think it's quite neat. So unlike Prayer of Swiftness, Sign of Sigmar just kind of makes a lot more sense. So let's say you have some kind of a dodgy character, right? And you go into that combat and you do manage to enter that stance. If your character then survives, you can make it more resistance to that melee resistance and range resistance. Like you're gonna find SP to use the skill. And yeah, it's like it gives you both things, like range resistance and melee resistance. I think it's quite neat. I think it's... I almost want to put this into good, because I would legitimately use this on melee resistance novices, for sure. I'm gonna put this into good, honestly, because that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, my heart really wants to put this into good, but I can see putting this also into not bad. But my heart really wants to put this into good. So I think it's good, actually. As for the mastery, I think the mastery also makes sense. It gives you plus 10% melee resistance and range resistance for 3 rounds. And yeah, you can like set it up and then you have it with you for like 3 rounds and you can just walk around. I think it's especially nice for, what do you call it, the augur currently. Right, because Augur is like so hungry for like any passive skill slots and stuff. Because she has to use Order. Yeah, I think it's relevant. I think this one goes into not bad, to be honest. Plus 10% melee resistance and plus 10% range resistance. I think it's relevant enough. Yeah. And that leaves us with the Witch Hunter skills, so let's get to the Witch Hunters. And these are going to be quite funky. Let's start with the passive skills. We're gonna have Witchfinder's Sword first. So Witchfinder's Sword, the basic version gives you plus 15% poison resistance and magic resistance. The mastery plus 30% magic resistance and poison resistance. I think the basic version, I think it's usable on henchmen, especially if you're like stacking some kind of melee resistance, magic resistance. But overall, I think you're just better off with like the Sign of Sigmar and stuff, in my opinion. But you can also stack this with Sign of Sigmar, so there's also that possibility. Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, it's a better resist magic, so I think it's like not bad. As for the mastery, I actually love the mastery because it gives you plus 30% magic resistance and plus 30% poison resistance. And that's like, those are the exact things that make you vulnerable. Whenever you have some kind of like armor heavy build, and with Witch Hunters, you are able to make like heavy armor characters, right? And you do get countered by poison, you do get countered by magic. So amazing. It's really good. Yeah, I think it's fair if I just put this into really good category. You can also use it on your impressive, but there are gonna be like some changes to impressives overall. Oh, also like the requirement for it. You don't even have to like invest into intelligence and stuff. It's 6-9 toughness, which like every single character goes for 6-9 toughness, right? No, I think it's more fair if I actually put this into good. I think it's more fair because you don't necessarily have to go for this skill. But Poison Skaven is a thing, in my opinion. I think it's a thing. Like, not to mention, it can also stack with, what do you call it, like the Purified Body, something like that. Spell that the warrior priest has. I feel your ratings are purely PvP based. Is that fair to say? Yeah, I think my ratings are more like PvP based, to be honest. But like usually, also like the way I do my PvE warbands, I kind of make them PvP based a little bit, because then I would like to like play like other players and stuff. So, but let's talk about like Sign of Sigmar and like here I have to like SMH add the tournament players and the witch hunter players that we have here, because there's like so many spells with so many spellcasters dominating it. No like witch hunter player, no witch hunter warband is actually picking up the skill. You know, the skill that actually protects you against like spamming spells against you all the time. It's a bit weird. um oh, a bit of a fun fact. I think I pointed out that like the skill doesn't really make sense, because like back in the day, it only used to give you like plus 15% melee damage whenever you failed a magic resistance check, but this was like put into like intelligence, so with intelligence you would get more MR, so it like kind of didn't make sense. I really love with what Para came up with the skill. I think it's amazing now. Now, whenever you fail magic resistance check, you get plus 15% damage and melee damage, and plus 15% magic resistance for 2 rounds. So it's really, really good. It just kind of makes sense. And the mastery gives you plus 20% magic resistance and plus 20% 20% melee damage. Honestly, I haven't played with this skill. But I'm pretty sure this sort of a skill you try to get on every single war band member of your witch hunters. I'm pretty sure, or at least you try, if you can. You just try. I'm pretty sure this goes into God tier, like no matter what. It's really amazing. It's just that good. For the mastery, um, the difference between the mastery and the skill is like the 1 round difference and just 5%. Otherwise, there's not really all that much difference. But that like that buff lasting like 1 more round, it can be a really huge deal in my opinion. But at the same time, I think I think personally speaking, I'm gonna have like a hard time actually investing like into the skill, because it costs like so many skill points. So I'm gonna put this. I feel like this belongs in good, and I think it is good. But I can see like that 1 more round like making a difference, because then yeah. Okay. Saying to take range and magic resistance to my warband and had to play 40 plus PvE so far is sort of disingenuous. I mean, no, I don't think it is disingenuous. I mean, it's like it's part of the challenge, right? You're supposed to be making like a PvP warband while you're playing PvE. And like, yeah, I think that's part of the challenge, really, and part of the tournament. The skill. I'm pretty sure that the skill is also like completely amazing. It basically, whenever you pick up a word stone for 3 rounds, your warband members turn into Skaven because they get +2 movement speed. And the mastery is like easy to master, but you get like +3 movement speed. I think it all kind of just depends on where the word stone actually is. Witch hunters, they love actually picking up wordstone because they have warrior priest who is able to get rid of any like weird bad wordstone effects from you, right? So I think this goes into I think I also just kind of like want to put this into God tier because it's just I think every single henchman in the warband should have it. It is more questionable if you should also pick this up on your like heroes and leaders because sometimes you might not have a free slot for that. So I'm gonna put this at like the top of insane. And the mastery, it just gives you +1 additional movement range. I think it's just like okay. And it's easy to master, so it costs only 2. You basically just go for the skill if you happen to have like some leftover SP. Sorry. Yeah, if you have some leftover skill points. I'm gonna put this at like the bottom of not bad. I would put this in like not bad okay, because the difference is not that big, to be honest. It's standard on henchman, that's enough to be god tier. Like sometimes you just don't get to use it because the word song is like in weird places. So acknowledge Mordheim, right, doesn't have like that issue. But when it works, it's actually like I do agree that it's kind of god tier. So yeah. Ardent is basically what you take on 3 to 4 members. No, I think you take it on like every single member, like Ardent Cleansing. And if you happen to have like an opportunity, like you could even like pass the words on to your other and to other like warband members, right? You can just give it to somebody else to have them buffed. I think it makes sense. I don't think there's like a situation where you would cannibalize yourself, really. I mean, it's like would you like your entire team to read the Mordheim map? Like, I guess yes, because it gives insane buffs for 3 rounds. But this is like +2 movement. You turn into Skaven. But yeah, I think yeah, movement. I think movement is kind of king in the game because the more movement you have, the more like SP you have to work with, the more you can like dictate what kind of fights you get into, and so on. Yeah, but let's move on to Trial by Pain. Trial by Pain. Oh my lord. So I kind of liked how Kitten like talked about the skill. It really is like kind of like a cute skill. So what Trial by Pain does, it applies a debuff on an enemy, and whenever they go for an attack, they take 5 to 10 damage. And this debuff lasts for 2 rounds. The mastery gives 10 to 15 damage instead, and you cannot switch weapons anymore. I'm saying it's cute as well because I actually did play like this Witch Hunter Warband, which was focused around the skill, and it actually did work. And it was really cute. It was so cute, and it was so fun. But like in actual PvP, I think it's kind of like a joke. um, Yeah, the skill is kind of tragic. Like 5 to 10 damage, I don't think it's like relevant enough, unfortunately. Yeah, you can like apply it to, hypothetically, you can apply it to entire warband, and you can also stack it with mastery. Um, but I don't know. I kind of just want to put this one to bed. Also, there's like this really stupid interaction as if like if the demon kills itself from trial by pain, like the game is going to think that the demon just killed itself, you know? You don't even get like the reward for killing the demon. It's really stupid. It happened to me before. It's really dumb. As for the mastery, I think the mastery is actually a lot more relevant because the master is a lot more relevant because it also like prevents like switching weapons, and like two turning in this game is like a real thing, and two turning often happens by just swapping your weapons. That's like the easiest way to two turn somebody. And if you get that opportunity from somebody, yeah, it's like it's pretty good. And also like let's say you're going against like a ranged character, right? And they have a bow in hand, and you pin them down. They cannot switch back to melee weapons, they're just defenseless. They cannot attack you anymore. Everything just sucks for them. So I feel like I suppose my only problem with the skill is that Witch Hunter heroes, they don't really have like support archers. I think the only support archer that they have is the LGT Zealot, because LGT Zealot is the only unit that's able to actually use bow. Right? Um yeah, I don't think there's like such a thing as using this like with the blunderbuss. Blunderbuss? I think it's called blunderbuss. Or using it with like the crossbow pistols. I mean, you can use it with crossbow pistols. You can use it with crossbow. I have used it before. I think this is like between like not bad and okay. The thing is, this costs like so many like skill points. I think just the overall effect kind of ends up being okay, but if you're playing some kind of a support archer with trial by pain, you're probably going for handshot, and you're probably not looking to reduce enemies, what do you call it? Enemies offensive points with crippling shot, because you want the enemy to hit you as much as possible, you know? And also in that case, you're also probably going for this like sigil of Sigmar, so that the only way the enemy is able to interact with you is just by attacks, and they cannot like magic resistance, magic attack you with magic because you have too much magic resistance. So if I argue it like that, and you can like make some kind of a handshot trial by pain, yeah, you can do it, but it's kind of like, I think the best way is actually to say that it's cute. So let's talk about Fanatical Zeal. So the basic version basically gives your character a plus 10% melee hit chance, but you are not able to disengage anymore. And the mastery gives you plus 15% hit chance, but for 3 rounds instead. And you cannot disengage. So you can only use the skill on Executioner or Templar Knight. Yeah. You can only use the skill, I think, only on Executioner or Templar Knight, because these units already have the issue that they cannot disengage. So you basically just gain plus 10% melee hit chance with these guys. Yeah. For those guys, I mean, I guess it's kind of neat. For everybody else, the skill is just, I would just put this into horrendous. You can just feel like the difference. Like there are so many situations, like the fact that these that you take the possibility from that you take the possibility from characters to disengage. It can be like a huge strategical mistake. I mean, this is like one of the strengths of these characters, that they are actually able to disengage and retreat if necessary. You can't do it with this skill. Yeah. But because I think the skill is usable on the Executioner and the Templar Knight, I think it's like, I think it's okay. You're probably gonna be like better off with an insult. Technically speaking, you can kind of stack it with insult, but I'm just putting this into okay, just because of that interaction that you cannot disengage or run away anymore, and that really sucks. Also, there's like one more thing about the skill, and I think like the interaction is like really stupid. So like, although your characters when they are under the effect of fanatical zeal, they cannot disengage or run away. They can still fail an all alone test. And when they fail the all alone test, they actually run away. So I think that's kind of stupid. Okay, as for the mastery, I think mastery doesn't make any sense, because this costs like 2 SP to activate. When you're in a fight, you don't really use like your SP for much, and you're probably not gonna have like a hard time like reactivating just the basic one. And like for 4 additional skill points, I can get 5% more hit chance. That doesn't sound like a good deal to me. And like I was saying, like the duration, the longer duration, I don't think it matters, because again, you can just reapply it every round. So I think this is just, it's like between horrendous and bad, so I'm gonna put this into bad. Really. I almost want to put this into horrendous, but it's not overpower. So yeah. Burn the Witch. Burn the Witch is kind of like a very annoying skill. Basically, when you It costs 2 offensive points and 1 skill point. And whenever you hit your target, they get +1 offensive points to their spellcasting for 2 rounds. And this one is for 3 rounds, and they get +2 offensive points. So basic version, I think it's not bad. I think it's not bad, but it has some issues. And the issue is that very often with melee characters, this is a melee attack, when you approach that spellcaster for the first time, you might sometimes not have like enough SP to stack this enough of a time. You might have like maybe once. You could like maybe stack it once. Or maybe... Or yeah, maybe just once. Or maybe twice, but then you don't get the chance to like put yourself in like a stance. Or you approach that mage that is like 40 meters away from you, and when you finally get to him, you don't have like any SP left over to actually apply the skill, so the mage doesn't care. But when it actually hits, it's really fucking annoying. This is really annoying on the spellcasters when it actually hits. And you can like stack it, so like the situation gets worse and worse for you. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like not bad. As for the mastery, I think this is just bad. Because you like invest like way more points. Yeah, for like four skill. I mean, it can really shut down a spellcaster, but so can like Sigil of Sigmar, and I think we're just better off with like the Sigil of Sigmar. And if you do want to like bully the spellcasters, I think you're just better off going for the skill. I think the basic one is gonna be enough. Yeah, I guess. Okay, any questions?